Let's be real. There's nothing more confusing than when a man disappears just as things were starting to feel good. And then, out of nowhere, poof, he comes back like nothing ever happened. So today, we're going to break this cycle down and look at the real reasons behind this frustrating behavior. Some men operate in a strange middle space. They're not fully committed, but they're also not entirely gone. When they first meet you, everything feels exciting, the connection feels promising, and there's just enough interest to keep things going. But as things start to deepen, they suddenly pull back. It's not because you did something wrong. It's because deep down, they were never fully in to begin with. Has been. These men live in a comfort zone where they want the warmth of a relationship without the responsibility that comes with it. Their disappearing act is usually driven by confusion or fear. Commitment often feels heavy to someone who hasn't truly decided what they want. So instead of being honest about their uncertainty, they withdraw. They go silent. They leave you with unanswered questions and mixed feelings. You find yourself overanalyzing every moment, wondering what went wrong, while he's out avoiding the emotional weight of it all. This pattern is not a reflection of your value. It's a reflection of his indecision. But just when you start healing and moving on, there he is again. He texts you out of nowhere. Maybe it's a casual, "Hey, how have you been?" Or a nostalgic message that brings up an old memory. Suddenly, you're caught in an emotional loop. Why does he come back? Because he remembers the connection, the comfort, and how good you made him feel. But remember, has been. Missing you doesn't always mean he's ready to step up. Has been. It often means he wants the emotional benefits without the effort of growth. If he was never fully in, then his return doesn't guarantee change. It just shows that you were never fully out of reach. And that's where your power lies. You get to decide whether someone's presence in your life adds value or just adds confusion. Then you're not obligated to welcome back someone who couldn't choose you the first time. When a man starts getting comfortable in a relationship, it often means he's enjoying the connection, the attention, and the warmth that comes from spending time with someone who genuinely cares. Things feel good, natural, even exciting. But as the relationship begins to deepen and emotional intimacy starts to build, something shifts inside him. What once felt fun and lighter-hearted now starts to feel vulnerable. The idea of being truly seen, known, and possibly relied on can trigger an inner panic. This fear doesn't necessarily mean he doesn't like you. In fact, it's usually the opposite. He may feel more for you than he expected, and that unexpected depth of emotion unsettles him. It brings up old wounds, past disappointments, or even a sense that he might not be enough. Instead of staying and working through those feelings, he runs. He disappears without explanation, leaving you confused and hurt. The apology has been wondering what went wrong when everything seemed so right just days ago. His disappearance is often a form of emotional self-protection. It's his way of pulling back into safety, away from something that feels too intense or overwhelming. But after some time, once his fear settles and the reality of your absence kicks in, he begins to miss what he had. He remembers the comfort, the way he felt around you, and the peace your presence brought. So he reaches out, hoping to reconnect, to reclaim what felt good. without necessarily addressing why he left in the first place. When he comes back, it's rarely because he had a sudden epiphany about how to be a better partner. More often, it's because the emotional distance started to feel lonelier than he expected. But unless he's done some real inner work and is ready to face the fear that made him run, he's likely to repeat the same cycle. That's why it's important to pay attention not just to his return, but to his readiness. Does he come back with clarity and commitment? Or just because he misses the comfort without offering the courage to stay? Some men thrive on attention and admiration. When they're around someone who sees them, compliments them, and gives them a sense of importance, it becomes addictive. They feel validated, confident, and energized. That kind of emotional boost is powerful, especially for someone who doesn't often feel that in other areas of life. Once apology has been. When things are going well, they enjoy keying up the affection and admiration once the apology has been, but they don't always understand or value where it's coming from. When life becomes dull or their confidence takes a hit, maybe things aren't going well at work, with friends, or just within themselves. They remember where they once felt important and seen. That memory brings them back to you. They recall how you made them feel admired, how your presence gave them a sense of identity and value has been. So, without much thought or consideration for your emotional journey, they reappear, acting like no time has passed and hoping to step right back into that comfortable space. The problem has been, they're not returning because they want to invest in a real connection. They're returning because they're low on self-worth and looking for someone to fill the gap. This isn't love, it's ego maintenance. They're searching for the same feeling, not a deeper bond. And once they've refueled, once their confidence is topped up again, they may drift away just as quickly as they returned. It becomes a cycle of taking, not building. Recognizing this pattern is important because it protects you from being used emotionally. If someone only shows up when they need validation but disappears when it's time to give the apology has been, then they're not looking for a relationship. They're looking for a fan. You deserve someone who values your presence all the time, not just when they need to feel better about themselves. The has been. Sometimes when a man disappears, it isn't about confusion or fear. It's about control. Disappearing can be a calculated move meant to shift the emotional balance in his favor. By pulling away suddenly and without warning, he creates a sense of uncertainty in you. You're left questioning yourself, wondering if you did something wrong, or if you could have done more to keep him. This confusion gives him a strange kind of power, because now, instead of focusing on what you want or need, you're focused on him. In relationships, emotional control can be subtle. When someone pulls away, it naturally makes the other person feel a need to fix things. You might reach out, try to reconnect, or replay conversations in your head. All of this gives him the upper hand. He doesn't have to put in effort to keep your attention because the silence itself keeps you engaged. It's a tactic that plays on your emotional investment and desire for clarity. You begin to chase something that was never yours to lose in the first place. When he comes back, he's not necessarily returning because he realized your value. Often, he's simply checking to see if he still has access. He wants to know if the door is still open, if he can still affect you, if your emotions are still tied to him. It's less about wanting a meaningful relationship and more about confirming that he hasn't lost his grip on your feelings. Has been. This can feel like affection, but it's really about reassurance for him. Not connection. Has been. Understanding this pattern is the first step in breaking it. You don't have to play along with someone who treats your heart like a light switch, turning it on and off when it suits him. Your worth isn't defined by someone who disappears and reappears on their own terms. Real love doesn't require mind games. It shows up consistently, communicates clearly, and respects your emotional space. Anything less is not love. It's manipulation dressed as interest. Sometimes when a man disappears, it's because he's exploring other options. He might be dating casually, talking to multiple people, has been, or chasing the thrill of something new. In that phase, he isn't thinking about commitment or who's best for him long term. The apology has been, he's thinking about variety, excitement, and what feels easy in the moment. If your relationship required deeper emotional connection or more serious effort, he might have chosen the path of least resistance and backed away without giving you the respect of a real explanation. This doesn't necessarily mean you weren't enough. In fact, men often walk away from something meaningful not because it lacks value, but because they aren't in a place to appreciate it. When someone is unsure of themselves or not ready for emotional maturity, they can't always recognize when they're standing in front of something real. They get distracted by what's shiny, what's different, or what seems more effortless. It's not a reflection of your worth, but rather of their lack of clarity and emotional readiness. Then, when those other options fall flat, when the excitement wears off or things don't go as expected, they start looking back at what they lost. They remember you as safe, consistent, and genuinely caring. They come back not necessarily because they've realized your true value, but because they miss the comfort and stability you offered. To them, you were the reliable place they didn't know how to appreciate at the time. Their return is often motivated by regret or emptiness, not always by growth or change. It's important to know that being someone's fallback is not the same as being someone's choice. Just because he returns doesn't mean he to build something meaningful. Before letting someone back into your life has been ask whether they've truly changed or simply lost what they thought would be better. You deserve to be with who chooses you first, not someone who comes back only after realizing other doors have closed. When a man disappears and then comes back, it's often because he assumes you've been waiting for him. In his mind, that once the connection you shared is frozen in time, untouched by his absence. He believes that no matter how long he's been gone or how unclear his intentions were, you'll still be there, ready to continue where things left off. This assumption isn't always rooted in arrogance. It's often based on past experiences where disappearing didn't have any real consequences. The problem is, when you allow someone to come and go as they please without setting boundaries, it sends a message. It tells them that your time, emotions, and energy are always available to them, even when they haven't earned that access. This isn't about being harsh or unforgiving. It's about recognizing the value of your presence. Poly has been. When someone thinks they can step out of your life and return whenever it suits them, it shows they don't fully respect what you bring to the table. Consistency matters in relationships. It builds trust, safety, and real emotional intimacy. Without it, everything feels unstable and uncertain. If a man disappears and then returns expecting the same access to your heart, it's a sign that he not truly understands the weight of his actions. It's not enough that he misses you or remembers the good moments. What matters is whether he respects you enough to show up fully and consistently moving forward. Ben, you are not a backup plan, a safety net, or someone's emotional convenience. You teach people how to treat you by the standards you uphold and the behavior you accept. Apology has been. If someone expects you to always be there after leaving without explanation, it's okay to show them that your love comes with boundaries, because the right person won't risk losing you by disappearing in the first place. Ben, some men are drawn to the early stages of a relationship where everything feels exciting, new, and unpredictable. They enjoy the chase. The texting, the flirting, the challenge of getting your attention and affection. This stage gives them a sense of adrenaline, a feeling of accomplishment, and a boost to their ego. But once the connection starts to deepen and a real bond begins to form, that initial high fades. Suddenly, the relationship requires emotional presence, vulnerability, and steady effort. Things they may not be prepared or willing to give. When this shift happens, they often retreat. They pull away not because something is wrong with the relationship, but because it no longer provides that same thrill. Commitment requires consistency, and for some, that feels boring or even suffocating. They weren't looking to build something long-term. They were looking to feel something intense. And when the spark turns into something more stable and real, they lose interest, thinking the excitement is gone. After a while, though, they start missing the energy of the connection. They remember how good it felt to be desired, to share chemistry, and to receive attention. So they come back, not necessarily with changed intentions, but because they want to feel that spark again. They hope that by reaching out, they can rekindle the same emotions they felt in the beginning. But without a desire for real growth or deeper connection, the pattern is likely to repeat itself. This cycle can leave you feeling confused, questioning your worth, and wondering why things never seem to move forward. But the truth is, it's not about you lacking anything. It's about someone chasing a feeling instead of choosing a relationship. You deserve more than a spark. You deserve something that stays lit even when things get real. Real love shows up after the chase has been, when it's time to build trust, share life, and be consistent. Don't settle for someone who only loves the beginning. When a man disappears without explanation and then reappears as if nothing happened, it can often be traced back to emotional immaturity. Emotional maturity involves the ability to communicate clearly, take responsibility for one's actions, and understand the impact of those actions on others. But when someone lacks these qualities, they tend to retreat at the first sign of emotional discomfort. They don't know how to express their doubts, fears, or confusion, so they choose silence instead. disappearing becomes an easier option having a difficult or honest conversation. This kind of behavior can be incredibly damaging to the person on the receiving end. You may be left with a whirlwind of emotions: confusion, rejection, anxiety, trying to make sense of what went wrong. Once the emotionally immature man doesn't always understand this ripple effect. He's too caught up in his own internal struggle to see how his actions leave others emotionally stranded. Instead of working through his feelings or being honest about his limitations, he simply vanishes, believing that avoiding the situation is somehow better than facing it head on. When he does return, it's usually not because he's grown or learned from the experience once the apology has been. It's because enough time has passed for him to feel comfortable again, or because he misses the emotional safety and connection you provided. But without genuine self-reflection and growth, the cycle is bound to repeat. His reappearance is often an attempt to regain what he lost without taking any real steps to be better or do better. Once the apology has been, that inconsistency is a sign that nothing has changed beneath the surface. It's important to remember that his emotional immaturity has nothing to do with your value or what you offered in the relationship. His inability to show up, communicate, or commit is about his own lack of readiness. You deserve someone who doesn't run when things get real. Someone who can handle vulnerability, express themselves with honesty, and navigate challenges with maturity. Don't let someone's emotional absence convince you that you are hard to love. The right person will have the emotional strength to stay and grow with you. There are times when a man leaves and later begins to feel the weight of that decision. He starts to remember the comfort of your presence, the way you supported him, the fun you shared, and the calm you brought into his life. In those quiet moments, regret begins to settle in. He may realize that he took you for granted, that your value became more obvious in your absence than it ever did while you were around. The memory of you becomes more appealing than whatever caused him to walk away in the first place. That kind of regret can feel powerful, even genuine. But regret alone isn't the same as growth. It's entirely possible for someone to miss you without actually understanding what went wrong or how to fix it. Once the apology has been, they may want to feel close to you again because they're lonely or nostalgic. But they haven't done the emotional work necessary to be better this time around. Their return can feel sweet and sincere, yet still be rooted in guilt or longing, not in any meaningful change. When someone comes back out of regret, it's important to pay attention to their actions rather than their words. Are they showing up differently? Are they willing to talk honestly about what happened and take responsibility for it? Or are they just trying to reconnect without really addressing the past? A man who's truly grown will approach you with humility, self-awareness, and a clear desire to build something stronger. He won't expect to pick up where you left off without earning back your trust. It's tempting to welcome someone back simply because you miss them too. But your future deserves more than someone who only realized your worth after you were gone. You deserve someone who values you in your presence, not just your absence. So before opening the door again, ask yourself whether he's coming back out of love and growth or just because he doesn't like how it feels without you. There's a big difference. and your heart deserves the truth. One of the biggest reasons a man keeps disappearing and coming back is because he knows he can. If every time he returns, you welcome him with open arms, no questions asked, it teaches him that there are no real consequences for his behavior. He learns that he can leave when things get uncomfortable and come back when it suits him, all without having to explain himself or make any real changes. This dynamic gives him control, and it silently tells him that your love is available on his terms, not yours. It's not always easy to see this when you're in the middle of it. You care about him, you miss him, and when he comes back, a part of you feels relief, like maybe things will be different this time. That hope can be powerful, but it can also be misleading. Without boundaries, there's no reason for him to take you seriously. He doesn't have to grow, reflect, or improve. He just has to wait until your guard is down again and the cycle continues. The truth is, you have far more power than you think. You get to decide who has access to your heart and under what conditions. When you begin to set clear boundaries and stick to them, something important happens. People start treating you differently. The ones who were only interested in convenience will fade away, the apology has been, while the ones who truly care will rise to meet the standard you've set. This shift doesn't protect your heart. It attracts better love. You are not asking for too much by expecting consistency, honesty, and emotional maturity. You are simply asking for the kind of love that respects your time, your feelings, and your worth. If someone isn't willing to offer that, then letting them come and go only keeps you stuck in a pattern that hurts. You deserve a relationship that doesn't require repeated forgiveness for the same mistake. When you raise your standards, the right person won't be afraid of them. They'll be ready for them.